Here's the news for this evening. Government prepared to evacuate Guyanese children from hurricane-hit islands. Cabinet Secretary Joseph Harmon stands by Patterson's controversial oil block claims. Minister George Norton defends work of social cohesion ministry. And Guyana prepares to roll out telemedicine program.
From Safe TV headquarters in South Bramwell Gardens, this is Safe TV Headline News with George Gonzalez.
Headline News is now being streamed live on our YouTube channel. Join us. Government is preparing to evacuate the children of Guyanese on islands devastated by recent hurricanes. This decision follows a visit from a 6-member team sent by the government to assess the islands and to report on the state of the Guyanese affected after Hurricane Irma. Today, head of the team, Minister Winston Felix, provided an update to reporters. Wendell Jeffrey was at the press conference and filed this report.
Many of them did not express a need to return to Guyana. Those we met did not express a need to return to Guyana, but they wanted their children to return. And that is one situation we have to manage. You could see signs of an epidemic breaking out.
That was Minister of Citizenship and head of Guyana's disaster assessment team, Winston Felix. He was today updating the press on his first-hand observation of Hurricane Irma's destruction and the needs of the Guyanese residents and citizens now affected in the islands. He said that the situation is dire, and given the pending epidemic, the government is in an advanced planning stage of evacuating the children of affected Guyanese.
Children being vulnerable, they need to be removed early.
Asked about whether the government can afford to evacuate all Guyanese who need to return home, the minister said that everything takes money. He said, however, that their priority will be given to children under 12 years old.
We'll have to work with a system of priority to ensure that children are taken care of before the situation deteriorates.
The minister then shared some of his observations.
Barbuda has been severely affected, and as a consequence, there was a need to evacuate everyone from Barbuda onto Antigua. The team then visited St. Martin by chartered aircraft, assisted by Mr. Reese, and there we met total devastation of the island. Any house in sight was without roof. We met Guyanese, and the best thing about them is that they were happy to have seen their fellow Guyanese visited to look into their interests. All expressed the need for assistance in terms of building materials, water, bedding, and items to make them comfortable.
Minister Felix said that the government will also give priority to the return of the remains of Mr. Derek Ragunath and his family. Mr. Ragunath, a Guyanese, died when his home in the British Virgin Islands collapsed on him during the passage of Hurricane Irma. For Channel 2 Headline News, I am Wendell Jeffrey.
Thanks, Wendell. Still on hurricanes, Dominica is coming to grips with the massive destruction left by Hurricane Maria. Initial reports suggest that several Guyanese on the island are also affected. Hugh Henry, a Guyanese-born Dominican businessman, is in Guyana mobilizing support for Guyanese affected on Dominica. Here's more. Hugh O. Henry is a Guyanese-born Dominican businessman that has been living on the island for well over 20 years. Henry has gone into overdrive to secure assistance for Guyanese in Dominica affected by Hurricane Maria. Despite living in Dominica, he maintains strong ties with Guyana. In fact, he is currently in Guyana attempting to connect the Guyanese diaspora in Dominica with their family back home and vice versa. Maria made landfall in Dominica Tuesday night, becoming the first Category 5 hurricane on record to strike the island. According to Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerritt, at least 17 persons are missing. Reports indicate that neighborhoods were littered with structural debris as rows of houses along the entirety of the coastline were rendered uninhabitable. At least 90% of the structures on the island have sustained damage. It is estimated that Maria has caused several billion US dollars in damage. The power grid is severely affected, causing island-wide blackouts. There are also reports of widespread water shortages as many of the pipes were uprooted by the storm. Communications on the island are limited to Flow Wireless customers. Henry is also gathering donations for food, money, and supplies to send to Guyanese in Dominica. Those interested are asked to contact Henry through WhatsApp number +1 767 276 5309 or contact the local number at 695 4318. Public Health Minister Volda Lawrence says Guyana will roll out its telemedicine program in 5 regions next year. The minister made the disclosure today during a courtesy call to her office by new Canadian High Commissioner to Guyana, Lillian Chatterjee. The Finance and Telecommunications Ministries are firmly behind the distance medicine novelty, which will target regions 1, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Telemedicine, also called e-health or telehealth, allows healthcare professionals to evaluate, diagnose, and treat patients in remote areas using telecommunications technology, removing the need for face-to-face meeting with doctors and nurses. When the program is launched, it will cut dependency on the current medevac services for hinterland residents. Coming up after the break, Social Cohesion Minister defends ministry's performance. And opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo is bitter about government's treatment of sugar. Stay with us.
This place is really hot. What's wrong with your AC?
It's not working.
Well, we wouldn't be able to continue this meeting anymore because this place is extremely hot.
Wait, please don't go.
Here's a company you can call to get your AC fixed. Action Cool.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
On Sunday, September 24, 2017, the Central Housing and Planning Authority is inviting residents of Block F, Sophia, and Plum Park to a consultation meeting at Block F, Sophia Playground and Sophia Practical Instructional Center, respectively. The consultation will address the reformulation of the road network upgrade and expansion program. The project, which will be undertaken through a loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, and entails road upgrades, street lights and sidewalks, upgrades to playgrounds and community buildings, and subsidies for construction of core homes and home improvement projects. Starting time, 16 hours at both locations.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's here once again. It's the clearance mega birthday sale, and it's going to be happening for 2 days on the 21st and the 22nd of September. So come down and enjoy half off store-wide on all dresses, jeans, tops, shoes, accessories, and everything that you need to give you that beautiful sizzling look. And for the fellas, come down and enjoy half off selected dress shirts and jeans, half off all kind of cool shoes and sneakers, plus continuous discounts store-wide. The sale happens for 2 days only on the 21st and the 22nd of September. It's the Clearance Big Mega Birthday Sale, celebrating with style and amazing deals. Clearance, always keeping you in style.
newest styles. Simply different.
Need a ride around town and beyond? Look no further than Oasis Ride Taxi Service. With affordable prices and some of the best drivers in the business, we've been delivering prompt and reliable service to Guyana for over 16 years. We also offer tours, chauffeur service, and even car rentals. You can call us at 231-5554 or 225-5496. For deals, specials, and more information, find our page on Facebook. Oasis Ride Taxi Service. Let's go.
Welcome to Kissoon's Furniture. Find everything you need for your home and more under one roof in our newly decorated showroom. Our locally crafted furniture has been perfected over the last 60 years. From our hands to your home, we also bring to you our newly introduced lines of imported furniture and sleep center, where you can find a wide range of beds and mattresses. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 60 years.
Welcome back. The country is none the wiser as to the availability or lack of concessions left in Guyana's waters for oil exploration. Today at the post-cabinet press briefing, the cabinet secretary, Joseph Harmon, was asked to say if there are indeed any such blocks left. Minister Harmon said the subject minister, Minister Patterson, has already addressed the matter and whatever Patterson has said is correct. Wendell Jeffrey is digging into this oily and slippery matter and filed this report.
We have a government position. We do not have an APNA position or AFC position.
So
when Minister Patterson speaks as a minister of the government, he speaks on behalf of the coalition government.
Government Minister and Cabinet Secretary Joseph Harmon was there addressing the issue of whether former President Barra Jagdeo and his PPP left any oil blocks available on their departure from office. Minister Patterson, a senior executive member of the AFC, said at their last press conference that Mr. Jagdeo had given out all the oil blocks and there were nothing left.
All available forest land has been given out. Yes. So all I can say is ditto. When we got in, they gave out everything. What you got to do is find out who they give it to. Some of the people we don't even know.
Minister Patterson was at the time responding to an accusation from Mr. Jagdeo that cronies and some people with unhealthy relationships to the government were planning to acquire oil blocks and then flip them for millions of US dollars.
The press conference that was held by the AFC after my press conference last week, in which I accused the coalition government of acts or impending acts of corruption. I pointed out at that time that we had knowledge of applications made for blocks of land for EPL licenses.
When he was confronted about the notion that he gave out all the viable oil blocks, the opposition leader doubled down on his claim that there are still several oil blocks left. He then provided the press with a GGMC's map, which he said supports his claim. When pressed as to why the Minister Patterson, would contradict him, Jagdeo went further. He accused members of the Granger administration of having illegal monies in offshore accounts.
They're running scared about that. I'm not running scared. In fact, I've been saying to the president for over a year now, why does he not accede to this? It will cost them less than they're spending on a single trip to hire an international firm specialized in tracing people's assets held abroad. So Patterson must be running scared. And I know why. And I know why. And let me mention a couple of names. Dominican Republic. Let me mention a country's name, Dominican Republic and Cayman Islands.
When asked today at the post-cabinet briefing to respond to Mr. Jagdeo on his assertions on the oil blocks and the claim of government functionaries owning illegal offshore accounts, Cabinet Secretary Joseph Harmon had this to say.
I'm saying to you that Minister Patterson was speaking about offshore concessions and that he's well aware of what he's talking about, and I'm sure he'll be in a position to give any further clarifications which you require on this matter. Mrs. Jagdeo probably knows about it, and that is why the State Asset Recovery Agency was established. They will go after all of these accounts, whether they be former government, current government, and so anybody who knows they got account in these islands or these territories who might be affected by the hurricane, that is their problem. But I can say to you, as far as I'm aware, nobody in this current administration will be afraid of any such inquiry. So Mr. Jagdeo must look in the mirror.
For Channel 2 Headline News, I am Wendell Jeffrey.
Thanks, Wendell. Regional Executive Officer of Essequibo Islands, West Demerara, Region 3, Mr. Dennis Jaikaran, has charged councilors of the Neighborhood and Regional Democratic Council to cooperate for the benefit of the region and wider country. He was at the time speaking at the Ministry of Social Cohesion's 42nd Diversity Education and Inclusion Workshop, where 37 stakeholders, including overseas and administrative staff from the RDC and representatives from the Ministry of Communities and Public Health, participated in a two-day workshop. This event concluded today at the RDC office at Vredenhoop, West Coast, Demerara. The Ministry of Social Cohesion continues to receive criticisms over its perceived inaction in carrying out its mandate. Minister George Norton, who is heading the ministry, believes that much work has been done. Here's that report. Over the past 2 years, the Ministry of Social Cohesion has been criticized due to a perception of doing very little. The ministry has been headed by George Norton following the reshuffling of President Granger's cabinet in the wake of the Sussex Street bond controversy. Minister Norton has been very active during his tenure thus far.
We have been meeting across, particularly in the Amerindian communities. We've been to Paramakatoy, we've been to the Rupununi, as far as Shelton, and St. Ignatius, where we had 1 week of sensitization. And we plan to continue. I did say in my presentation that I visited Amakokopai, which is the so-called Mecca of the indigenous religion.
His ministry has also reached out to communities ignored by past governments.
I felt disappointed in the people at Amakokopai saying, "You're the first minister to ever visit our community." You know, this is why I'm so happy to be where I am, because geographical location should never be a barrier.
Last month, it was reported that the Department of Culture, Youth and Sport will now be under the direction of Norton's ministry. Some had expressed concern that the minister may now be stretched too thin. He doesn't see it as such.
That is where it begins, and this is why I'm so happy to have youth in social cohesion. But, you know, we must start from the level of not only the schools, but particularly that of kindergarten. Nursery, we've got to start from nursery, primary, secondary, and then go upwards. The whole thrust of social cohesion.
He sees the department's move as an integral part of encouraging true social harmony in the land of 6 peoples.
As a matter of fact, it enhances each other. We can only achieve social cohesion if we involve culture. You know, and that goes for sports as well. One of the easiest ways to break the ice or break down the barriers by sports, like culture. And the best person to do that are the youths. So youth sports and culture comes neatly close-fitting into social cohesion.
Opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo says that sugar is not a PPP issue, but one that affects all Guyanese. At his press conference on Tuesday, the former president said that the current APNU government is not exhibiting leadership in their management of the sugar industry. Wendell Jeffrey was at that press conference and filed this report.
The next concern I have is about the sugar workers who have not been paid.
The opposition leader said that the non-payment of the workers is an unusual situation and that the government owes it to pay persons who work.
No amount of prevarication excuses will absolve them from that responsibility.
He said that immediately after their ascent to office, the coalition government boasted of their handling of the sugar industry. However, that is not now the case.
Production is all but collapsing across the industry. They're not clear about what the future of the industry will be. Only signal that people get is that there will be closures. What we face now is an impending catastrophe in the industry, probably an impending collapse of the entire industry.
Addressing the issue of the proposed sale of his flagship factory at Skeldon, Mr. Jagdeo said this.
We don't support it, but I'm just telling you any of this. But I'm telling you about an approach to it. First of all, if the government is going to privatize anything, that you have to do a valuation of the assets. Only when you value the assets, like I saw somebody said it's $1 billion, something recently $1 billion US, but what's the value of the land, the factory? What's the value of the cogen plant that Clive Thomas himself said supplies 90,000 households in Berbice? We saw a letter from the head of the presidential secretariat to Mr. Wesley Curtin, giving him the powers in November 2016, giving him powers to negotiate the sale of Gaisuko in whole or in part.
The opposition leader noted that those who will suffer from the closures and the collapse of the sugar industry are not just PPP supporters.
It's not only PPP supporters. This is a fallacy. It's good for all of Guyana. When Rose Hall is closed, it would affect New Amsterdam. But almost 20% of the sugar industry are Afro-Guyanese too. It has nothing to do with PPP or PNC. This is about Guyanese and what is good for the future.
For Channel 2 Headline News, I am Wendell Jeffrey.
Thanks, Wendell. Still ahead, regional and world news. Stay with us. Ride around town and beyond? Look no further than Oasis Ride Taxi Service. With affordable prices and some of the best drivers in the business, we've been delivering prompt and reliable service to Guyana for over 16 years. We also offer tours, chauffeur service, and even car rentals. You can call us at 231-5554 or 225-5496. For deals, specials, and more information, find our page on Facebook. Oasis Ride Taxi Service. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's here once again. It's the clearance mega birthday sale, and it's going to be happening for 2 days on the 21st and the 22nd of September. So come down and enjoy half off store-wide on all dresses, jeans, tops, shoes, accessories, and everything that you need to give you that beautiful sizzling look. And for the fellas, come down and enjoy half off selected dress shirts and jeans, half off all kind of cool shoes and sneakers, plus continuous discounts store-wide. The sale happens for 2 days only on the 21st and the 22nd of September. It's the Clearance big mega birthday sale, celebrating with style and amazing deals. Clearance, always keeping you in style.
On Sunday, September 24, 2017, the Central Housing and Planning Authority is inviting residents of Block F Sophia and Plum Park to a consultation meeting at Block F Sophia Playground and Sophia Practical Instructional Center, respectively. The consultation will address the reformulation of the road network upgrade and expansion program. The project, which will be under the control loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, and entails road upgrades, street lights and sidewalks, upgrades to playgrounds and community buildings, and subsidies for construction of core homes and home improvement projects. Starting time, 16 hours at both locations.
This place is is really hot. What's wrong with your AC?
It's not working.
Well, we wouldn't be able to continue this meeting anymore because this place is extremely hot.
Wait, please don't go.
Here's a company you can call to get your AC fixed. Action Cool.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
Welcome back. In news from the region now, the island of Puerto Rico has been destroyed by Hurricane Maria. We have more from ABC News.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed. Maria is the first Category 4 to hit there in nearly a century. 150-mile-an-hour winds ripping buildings apart, knocking out power everywhere. All of the electricity is out tonight. People ordered to stay inside until at least tomorrow amid fears of more massive flooding to come. And the satellite image tonight showing Maria's massive size, dwarfing the island, no part of it was spared. ABC's Victor Akendo leading us off from San Juan tonight.
Tonight, Maria's direct hit devastating Puerto Rico. The first Category 4 storm to strike Puerto Rico in 85 years, slamming ashore around sunrise.
We are back here on the northern side of San Juan here. I can only imagine what went down when this thing made landfall in the southeast corner of this island. Obviously the eye getting closer and closer to us, that eye wall now scraping the northern beaches here.
Roofs peeled from buildings, debris flying, structures collapsing. Up to 30 inches of rain in some areas, engulfing whole neighborhoods. Michelle Torres using everything she can to keep the water out.
The wind howls and screeches, the doors rattle.
We are outside of San Juan in the town of Guaynabo. It was hit very hard. A lot of destruction to homes, down trees and power lines as well. And now they're dealing with this, flooding in every direction. The emergency management director saying the entire island is destroyed. Many of these homes not built to withstand any hurricane, let alone a Category 4.
But the hurricane came and took my house.
Is it all wind damage? Is that what happened here?
Wind damage.
Hospitals damaged, running on generator power. We're standing on one of the busiest thoroughfares in all of San Juan, Puerto Rico, the John F. Kennedy Expressway. Not a single car in sight. We're the only ones out here. Emergency management now confirms 100% of Puerto Rico now without power. Everywhere you look, down power lines like these, which stretch right across the expressway. 12,000 people heeding the call to get to shelters, including our hotel's ballroom. Evacuees moved off this arena floor due to safety concerns. The howling wind piercing the darkness. Terrified residents singing about strength during trying times to ease the fear. David, you can see the damage right here behind me. This is what so many streets across San Juan look like tonight. Officials saying many areas will be uninhabitable for weeks, maybe even months. They're urging people to shelter in place. They've issued a curfew, and the governor now saying he is launching search and rescue teams as we speak.
And internationally, the world is running out of antibiotics, according to the World Health Organization. More from CBS News.
Here's something you may not be aware of. The world is running out of antibiotics. That is according to a new World Health Organization report.
The WHO report says there aren't enough new drugs being developed, especially for serious and drug-resistant infections like tuberculosis. Researchers warn that most of the antibiotics that are preparing to go to market are really just modifications of existing antibiotics. So Dr. Sarah Pauline is a microbiologist. She's with the WHO, and she contributed to that report. She joins us now from Geneva. So help us understand, doctor, there are not enough new drugs coming to market that can combat these new diseases that are popping up. That's what it is?
Yes, exactly. That's correct.
What we found, of course, because resistance has been emerging and really spreading tremendously quickly, it is a natural phenomenon that bacteria do develop resistance. But our pipeline, unfortunately, is not able to keep up with the development of resistance, and partly it's also due to market failure. There's less incentives to develop new antibiotics. Scientifically, it's very challenging, and if you just look at a new, for example, tuberculosis treatment, we've only really had 2 new antibiotics come to market in the last 70 years. So it shows you what the situation is, and we are already starting to face really multi-drug resistant and ultimately untreatable infections such as gonorrhea.
Doctor, when you say that there is no incentive to develop these new drugs, these new medicines, do you mean that there isn't an incentive, a money factor here? Is this what we're talking about, the economics of it?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. So the return on investment, of course, is not as high, for example, than treatment to treat chronic infections. And also the science behind it, the pure science to develop truly innovative new antibiotics, in particular for our critical pathogens, gram-negative pathogens, for example, to treat a urinary tract infection, is very complex. So I do understand partially why there is so little, but a lot of it is that there is not enough investment in this area.
And doctor, just a follow-up on that, is that also because, let's face it, a lot of these diseases, these strains that we're seeing are happening in countries and in populations where they're poor. There's a lot of poor people. These are poor countries, and they don't have the capabilities of doing it themselves. I'm sure if there was a way to develop a drug to prevent hair loss, that would get a lot of investment, but something like this doesn't.
Tuberculosis is not quite as sexy as Viagra.
Absolutely, and I think that's really a crook of it. And also, unfortunately, in a lot of our low and middle income countries, we don't yet have the laboratory capacity to really understand the full issue. And as you might have also seen in our report, what we also really are lacking is oral formulation, so tablet formulations of new antibiotics. And this is what is really critical for use and access in low and middle income countries.
So in talking about this, which infections concern you the most? Where do you think the real danger is?
Well, we recently launched another report, which is of our priority pathogens, which showed those pathogens which are most likely to develop resistance and really spread. I think that's also one of the things we're critically concerned about. And so these are gram-negative bacteria that, as I mentioned, are very difficult due to complex cell walls, etc., difficult to develop new antibiotics. And so it's one that they spread very quickly, develop resistance, but equally it's very, very difficult to actually develop new antibiotics.
But are there specific concerns like an antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis, or you mentioned gonorrhea? Are there certain diseases?
Yes, so we have Pseudomonas aeruginosa, if you want to talk about bacterial names, Acinetobacter baumannii, and Enterobacteriaceae, and a lot of those really cause urinary tract infections and very common infections, actually. And then, of course, we also have tuberculosis. We know that already annually we have 250,000 deaths from drug-resistant tuberculosis infections. And as I mentioned, if we've only had 2 new antibiotics come to market in the last 70 years, so this will become and is already a challenge.
It's really disconcerting to hear this report from you, from the World Health Organization, Doctor. Last question, I guess. How are you able, with the limited resources, able to combat the shortage? How are you able to help people who may have no other recourse if these drugs aren't being developed?
Well, we need to look at how do we preserve what we currently have. What are the antibiotics we have? And so what we're trying to do is work very closely with governments and international organizations to really use what we have appropriately. And so as an individual, to always seek medical advice before taking antibiotics and then to follow the medical professional's advice.
Dr. Sarah Pauline, thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And now for the weather forecast. And that's Channel 2 Headline News for this evening, the 21st of September 2017. As we take our leave, we invite you to find Channel 2 Headline News on Facebook, YouTube, and ch2headlinenews.com. You can also tune in 6:30 tomorrow morning for a rebroadcast, and Friday evening at 6 o'clock for more news. For now, I'm George Gonzalez, signing out from this newscast, saying thank you for welcoming us into your homes, and do have a blessed day.